Do you recall why he, decided to coach at Jackson State, which is, of course, an HBCU, maybe a
Hmm.
lower level football program? So, do you know about what went into the decision to coach there?
Well, I know I want to start with like what he said and also sort of the context of it too. So
Hmm.
the thing I've admired about Dion is that he wears his faith on his sleeve, right? So he's talked about it in terms of like I'm on a mission from God. That's why I went to Jackson State. So I can understand why it might have left a sour taste in folks' mouth when he left Jackson State. But thinking about the doors that were shut and the ways in which you know it's pretty clear if you've been following from the beginning that his heart was set on being a coach at his alma mater, Florida State, and that door was not open for him whatsoever, right? And,
Hmm.
and even at this point, with all the success that University of Colorado's having, and Florida State's having a great season too, I'd be hard pressed to think that if that vacancy ever came up, that he would really turn it away. I think that's really where his heart is, be able to go back to his alma mater and sort of like complete the story in that way. So it was really a matter of the credibility. He wasn't taken seriously. People looked at him as you described earlier, arrogant, which I don't think is truly fair because it doesn't seem to me as if it's all about him. I think a truly arrogant person is only in this for their own benefit. He seems, as far as I can tell, I don't know him personally, obviously, but he
Hmm.
seems to be pretty earnest in wanting to uplift the kids on his team and wanting to transform their lives, not just as players, but as people. So it seemed as if he just couldn't get into the club, right? So being able to go to Jackson State, which to me is not a step down, right? It's clearly like FCS versus FBS, but it's also a sense of a really different context where he'd still be able to fulfill that mission about dealing with folks in terms of the whole person. And
Hmm.
so those doors in the FBS were close to him, and that's what really opened up that opportunity for him to go to Jackson State and, frankly, have a tremendous amount of success in a very short period of time there.
He did, yeah. He One of the biggest things he did, of course, was getting Travis Hunter,
Oof.
who's the superstar two-way player,
Right,
who at the time was the consensus number one recruit, and he turned down schools like Florida State, Alabama, etc. Like
right.
any big program, you name him, and Dion was able to bring him to Jackson State. So, what is it about him that allows him to? I mean, we could talk about Colorado and the pull that he has there, but how does he get these kids, these stars, to come to Jackson State? Which again, it's not a step. I mean, it's we can be real. It's a FCS program, so
Right,
it's a lower level program. It's Division two or one AA as they used to
right.
call it. So, what is it about him that allows him to bring these kids to a program like
I
that?
think it's at least threefold. There's a lot of players of Dion's caliber who make terrible coaches, right? Because they can't imagine why it would be difficult for you to do that thing, right? This is something that whatever the skill is, right? If he's talking to a cornerback, it was like breathing for him, right? To be able to do the things that he was able to do. And so for a lot of great players, elite players, legendary players, they get frustrated when they see people either not being as committed or just frankly not able to achieve it. But Dion has this deep charisma that allows you to believe in yourself, right? So
Mm.
there's that sense of he's a legend. So he's not just like talking about it, he's actually lived it. He's everything that you'd want your career to be like. But then he also has this sense of I'm going to get the absolute best out of you. You're going to waste your time if you're not here to bring your absolute best. And three, I can't help but be stuck by the conversation that his team just put out with him and Travis Hunter, where Travis Hunter, has a lacerated liver, is going to be out for a few more weeks, but wants to play this weekend against USC. And Dion shared the message with his team of shutting it down and saying, you matter too much to me for me to allow you to
Mm.
play. And he even went so far to say to him, and this is Deion Sanders, once again, most likely the greatest cornerback we've ever seen, one of the greatest football players we've ever seen, saying to Travis Hunter, your potential is higher than mine. So imagine this
Mm.
person who's just, everything Travis Hunter would want to be saying, you're going to be better than me. Like he calls him son, and there's all of that language baked into it, which is not uncommon for coaches, but he's really living this out in a comprehensive way. It's not just, oh, you're just a player. He really has this whole cultural shift that he brings to a team of like, we're a family, not just in a sort of a corporate way, but he seems to be walking it out.
Yeah, I mean, of all the criticisms of Dion, I mean, you can't say that he's dishonest. He's always
Right.
upfront with his guys. I'm sure he was real with Travis about the challenges that they were going to face at Jackson State and the facilities versus
Come
what they're
on.
used to and all that stuff. But I mean, he drew the attention. They played on ESPN a bunch of times, so he brought eyes to the HBCU level. And there's been some criticism there. I mean, what do you make of the criticism of folks at the HBCU level who are saying that Deion only used this as a springboard to greater success? What do you think about that?
I mean, I can understand the pain and the feeling of, just being used and sort of, someone, it's almost like you're at a party and someone sort of like just dance with you, but also looking around the room and say who else is available to dance with. I can understand that sort of feeling coming up, but it was transformative. ESPN Game Day was not going to come to Jackson State without Deion being there. That's just an honest thing, and that's true for any program on that FCS level. That wasn't going to happen, right? So we have to just be realistic, as you were saying earlier, about sort of the expectations and the sort of the realities of Division 1AA. But also, I think there is a sense of HBCU culture is a world unto itself when compared with the culture like PWIs, right? So it's a very different understanding of what greatness is, right? It may not mean something to someone who follows like Big Ten football, like what Grambling, say someone like the giant like Eddie Robinson would mean, right? That may not mean much to them, but it means the whole world to folks who are within the HBCU universe, right? So just thinking about what it means to sort of like cross over into like the power conferences, who could blame anyone for feeling the sense of like we've been slighted or we're just being used? But I think it would be misguided to act as if the accomplishments and the contributions of Deion's tenure at Jackson State, as limited as it was, he just got there in 21 and he's already at a different place. Undoubtedly, it was a short time, but it was an impactful time. And I think that to sort of understate that would be a disservice too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think if anything, he made it more attractive to be an HBCU head coach. I know Eddie George, who was a legend with the Oilers and the Titans, is coaching there now. I want to say Ed Reed was going to coach.
He was going to coach at Bethune-Cookman, but absolutely did not work out.
yeah. For a long list of other reasons we don't need to get into. But
100%.
I think he made it a viable destination maybe for former players or guys who are looking for a chance to coach, a college football program and may run into barriers or obstacles at the elite, level with the Big Ten and Big 12, all these different conferences. So I understand why they may feel a little slighted, like, oh, you just use this as a springboard, you don't really care anymore. But the attention and the money and all that he brought to the HBCU conference, which I think is the Southern Conference, I believe it's called.
SWAC, yep.
The SWAC, yeah. So I get it, but I think it's unfair to hold Deion to those standards.